Hello YouTube, I'm back, and this time we'll be take a look at how to reassemble the Abu Garcia 5500C. This time is the C model, the older model. So all the parts has been cleaned, and I even cleaned the ball bearing, but it's an older model, so it's a different construction, and the ball bearing is actually in the cover, inside the cover here. So one side note, when I'm cleaning the bearing, instead of using a synthetic oil, I use rim oil. I use rim oil instead, because it has Teflon in it, so it's a better lubricant. But anyway, let's get started. So one last part needs to be cleaned is the spool itself. As you can see, it's pretty dirty. So yeah, let's get the residue from it's from salt, sand, and all that stuff, and also gunk. So just use a Q-tip and gently wipe things off. I like these older models better because the spool itself is actually stronger. It doesn't have the ball bearing or anything in it. So, but anyway, let's put this aside, and the clutch plate, and we're gonna start from reassemble the clutch plate. So okay, we need a little bit of pan reel grease, just a very thin layer of that. As I mentioned before, you need that thin layer to protect the metal surface here. Just a thin layer should be enough to cover, all the metal parts. Very thin. Usually sand will not get into the reel itself, but sometimes it does. You never know. If you dunk it, sand might get in. But these reels are sealed pretty well, to be honest. Okay, just a very thin layer, and we're gonna do this. We're gonna do this part later when we put it back into the frame. Okay, and then first, clutch release. It's kind of tricky, this part, and I found a way to do it. Just put the tabs through the spring, and it should be the other way around. And then pull it through. Okay, now it's in place. It's that simple. And you need to find this piece. This is the spring washer, copper, and put it back in there. That's for the main shaft. Just a little bit grease, and slide it down the shaft like so, and put a little bit grease on it. On the clutch release. and also some on the spring itself. Don't put too much, and otherwise it's gonna feel a little bit tight. But anyway, now we're gonna put back the clutch release here. I forgot to clean this part, but anyway, should be fine. There's a little bit old gunk on it, so wipe it off. And apply a little new grease. Also on the spring, and then put it back on here. There you go. And then the pinning gear, put a little amount of grease on it, a little bit more than what you want to do on the plate itself. And then slide it in like so. Like so. Remember, the plastic part is facing the notch. Okay? And then put this piece of spring on. This piece. Put it back on. And here's the tricky part. Okay, then you release the clutch release and slide this piece on, because this part is under tension. And this is the retainer clip, and it's a C-clip, but make sure there's the one part that protruding out. This part is facing down. So, okay, let's slide this thing back on there. Just put the tension on. And this is tricky. Okay, there's a groove on the shaft. So make sure. Okay, it's snug, like so. Okay, this is pretty much the free spool clutch assembly. Okay, let's move on to the second part, which is the crankshaft, your main gear, and your dog. So, okay, this is your drag washer. Make sure you put a little bit of lubricant on that, just one side. Just enough, don't put too much on it. And a layer on the main gear. So you have a smooth drag. Okay, put it back on, and then a layer of grease. Don't put too much on it, just enough to cover the metal. Okay, and then slide this part back on. Yeah, just like that. And the older reel has it's only 2 drag washer, not like the newer one. The newer one I believe has 4. And do the same on the other side, just a thin layer. And then a layer of grease. I do have a drag washer grease somewhere, but you know, regular grease will work as well. And then a little bit of grease on the gear itself. And on the bottom. Okay. And then your dog. And this part has a lot of salt deposit in it, so I'll give it a little bit more grease in there. And then slide this back on. There are 2 spring. There are 2 pieces of copper, as you can see here. That acts like a spring. And then slide it back in, and make sure everything's lined up. Okay. Let's see if everything works. Need a little bit more grease on the cover. Slide this part back on. And that's it. Your clutch plate assembly. Okay, and you can start to put the cover and spring washer stack. This part looks okay to me, so it doesn't need to be cleaned. And your sleeve, once again, it's okay. And then your clutch plate. Make sure everything is lined up, and you can't go wrong because there's a notch here. Okay, and just slide everything back on, and it's actually under tension, so make sure you put a little pressure on it. Okay, it's very simple and easy. And then your 2 screws, put the screw back in there. So the plate doesn't pop open. And the older C model, you cannot modify this reel to have an instant anti-reverse bearing in it. But the old dog system works just fine. A little bit reverse play, but it's actually a little stronger. Because I had a instant anti-reverse bearing go bad on me. Well, just one time, but okay, I'm turning. Okay, one more thing before we finish this part. It's the ball bearing. So it's actually very easy to reassemble. Just drop it in there, and a retainer clip. It's shaped very weird. It's not a C, but just drop it in there, and make sure goes into the groove so it doesn't pop out. And then you're good to go. This side of the cover, and then you put your spool tension cap on. Okay, and then find your C-clip. Once again, this is an older model, so instead of using that screw to hold down the crankshaft, uses a C-clip, but they have a switch back to the older design, so it should work the same on the newer model. Then I just a little grease, put this part back on. Then your handle. It sure fits snug. Then you slide on the C-clip. Okay. There you go. Complete assembled clutch plate part. And put the tuner on. And then your 2 screws. Very simple, nice and easy. Okay, and then before we put everything back together on the other side, we're gonna run a little test here, just to show you how good that rim oil actually is. Okay, here's your spool. Put it in there. Make sure centrifugal brake is lined up with the groove. Okay, and then right now we don't need the level 1 mechanism, so I just wanted to do a test, see how fast this spool can spin. Okay, put it in the free spool and just a little bit, give it a little tension here. Okay, free spool, no tension. Okay, it's good. And now we're gonna move on to the next one, which is assemble the left cover. So first we need to apply a little grease. Once again, just to prevent surface rust. You don't need much. And one thing about these older reel, you can find them pretty cheap on eBay, and usually runs about 40 bucks. And but it does require some cleaning because some of these reels are pretty old, and even you know, some brand new in the box one is covered with gunk, and so you need to open them and clean them. So put your C-clip on, just give it a push. It's in place now, and yeah, that's that. And now we're gonna put the level line back on. So yeah, that's your level line, and it's your warm gear and the housing, and put a little rim oil in it. And you can use a synthetic oil, you know, but I like the fact that rim oil has a little, it's a little bit Teflon in it, so it's a good lubricant. Okay, and slide this back on. Make sure it's lined up. Okay. Then a little bit grease. If you put grease on the frame, it's actually gonna help seal the cover a little. So just keep that in mind. You don't need much, just a little bit should do the work. And same thing with same thing, just like on the 5500 C3, you have this a little bit bent metal piece. Just, I'm sorry, it should be like this. Okay. And then put your pull in there. Make sure it goes in like so. And then your cover. drop of rim oil, and then now you can put your cover back on. But you don't want to close this just yet, because we're gonna be sync the level line with the spool. So when you cast or retrieve, your line, your spool and the level line is in sync, so you don't have extra friction going on between the line and the level 1 mechanism. So here's what we're gonna do. Slide this piece in. Slide the spool in there, and then you put your okay, and then just finger tighten these screws. And take the tape off. Okay, for your spool, find your line. Feed it through the level line. Okay, it's out of sync. I don't know if you can see. So now remember where the line is going on the spool, where the which direction. So it's going this way, and the level line is going this way. So we need to sync that. So take the cover off, and turn it. Until it's centered. Okay? And then put your cover back on. Okay, I guess we should turn the other direction. So now it's centered. Okay. See? Now it's going the same direction. It's not 100% centered yet, so give it a little more. Okay. Okay. Now we can put the remaining screws back on, just to lock down the plate. Okay, so that's how you reassemble the Abu Garcia 5500C. If you have any questions or comments, please comment below. And if you like this video and my other videos, please subscribe and share my videos. Thanks for watching.